parody, I'm going to try to ask myself if this parody constitutes a way to political liberation of bodies. So, from the statement of the social construction of bodies through categories, and from the idea that each process of categorization relies on a process of exclusion, Judith Butler tries to think ways to liberate bodies from norms. Butler develops a constructivist conception of body to avoid any essentialist conception about gender identity. The parody, based around the notion of performance, appears in her thought as a political solution to deconstruct the norms. Elle investigates more precisely her conception of bodies in her early work, that is to say gender trouble and body that matter, and how does it lead to a parodic solution. So in this presentation, I propose that Judith Butler's constructivist conception of bodies does not enable a true comprehension of the way individuals live in their bodies. I'll try in the first part to summarize pretty quickly Butler's conceptions of bodies and to indicate how parody is introduced in her thought. Then I'll argue that we need to adopt a phenomenological point of view about bodies, a first-person perspective, before proposing adapted solutions. This shift in the understanding of personal identity will bring the body back to the center and make it a real agent of emancipation. So from these changes will surge a unified subject initiating a political move. And in the last part, I'm going to try to study an aspect of the parody which is a bit forgotten by Butler, that is to say the collective aspect of the parody. So the core issue should then be deeper investigated. How is it possible to make of the Butlerian parody a true political act? So in the first part, I'm gonna try to, as I said, sum up the Butlerian thesis. So Judith Butler argues that the political emancipation has to come from the denaturalization of stable identities and by questioning the link between sex and gender. So I tried to make a short schema of her position. So Butler structures this constructivist conception of personal identity around the idea of gender performativity. Performativity is characterized by its metaleptical and also repetitive nature. It produces the expectation of an essence and it's constructed through a temporal dimension. Gender performativity makes us believe in a natural sex when in fact it's constructed through a series of actions, of short actions. So to Judith Butler, personal identity is characterized by its instability as well as its anchor in time. The conclusion of gender trouble is under the title From Parody to Politics, and the Butlerian parody seems to fully agree with her theory of bodies as performative productions, and therefore constitute a paradigmatic example of a political application of her thought. The figure of the drag queen symbolizes perfectly this ability to reveal that gender is a performance. The practice of parody comes directly from the idea that the inscription of norms in bodies is unstable and exposed to failure. Butler argued that in imitating gender, drag implicitly reveals the imitative structure of gender itself as well as its contingency. So by denaturalizing the natural woman, the drag queen enables us to propose a new intelligibility metric. Nevertheless, Judith Butler's parodic solution does not entirely seem to fulfill the condition required by a political solution. The example of a drag queen subverting the gender norms by accomplishing short actions cannot truly make changes to the domination situation because these actions do not come from a suffering subject, but rather from a disembodied spirit, a spirit which is going to repeat and repeat over and over the psychic action. So my first objection to this solution will concern her general conception of personal identity. Judith Butler thinks of the liberation of subjects without taking into account at least in her early work. I think she did change afterwards. Living body and the way subjects see themselves. In Butler's thought, I do not see where the Butlerian subjects draw their rage. Where do we locate the subject's own feeling of revolt if Butler conceives them only as a series of performative acts? What we know is that people experiencing a situation of exclusion consider themselves as a mind and a body together, impossible to distinguish from each other as a suffering self. And Butler starts from an account of what constitutes the subject, and she ends up with the subject condemned to a series of meaningless actions, unable to initiate true political changes. How could we conceive the need to revolt and to subvert the heterosexual matrix if this project is not anchored in a corporal intentionality? And why should we imagine a new way to conceive of bodies if they are only a psychic inscription without truly being part of our lived experience of our suffering? So it seems essential to me to give an account of the way subjects intimately experience in their mind as well as in their body situation of exclusion. The philosopher Iris Marion Young, in a phenomenological approach, proposed to rethink the category of gender in distinguishing it from the notion of a lived body. So to her, a lived body is a unified idea of a physical body acting and experiencing in a specific social-cultural context. It is a body in situation. So to her, we can't distinguish really the body and its cultural surrounding environment. It is in the accounts of these specific bodily experience that we can grasp the domination norm and think of a political change. So Butler's first-person perspective that has to be turned into a description in the first person that gives an account of how subjects create unity out of a fragmented world and how it leads them to revolt. My last section, as I say, will concern the necessity to articulate Butler's concept of parody with the essence of parodic action itself, that is to say, its collective aspect. Because Butler doesn't really speak in general terms of a collective aspect of the parody. It is impossible to think of a political change that does not involve a union between subjects. We have to keep in mind that the essence of politics is characterized by the fact that it involves a coalition of persons. And that of parody, as it is presented by Butler, is a rather infra-individual, short-lasting action that does not entail a real change. Beatrice Preciado, in her book Testo Junkie, speaks about her experience of a drag queen workshop, and she said that the drag king workshop, doesn't begin with dressing or making up our face to look like a man, but in becoming aware of the cultural orthopedics that construct everyday femininity, and by disidentifying from the normative nature of politically assigned gender. So in this case, we can notice that the subversive act is anchored in an intentional project and includes the presence of others. These women are gathering to try to have awareness of their domination situation. So I'd like to investigate in this last subsection, how is it possible to create a political queer we, and what should be the role of bodies in it. The originality of transgender practices lies in their use of the body as a political means. To Butler, the sole repetition of subversive acts triggers the denaturalization of essences. But this explanation seems to me inadequate, since it does not give an account of the way the performative actions have an effect on subjects. There lies a double question, the ones of the effects of subversive acts on the subject who perform them, and the one of effects of subversive acts on those who attend the performance. As Spinoza imagined it in the Ethics by representing political union as the singular way to channel human patience, we can think of politics as a means of harmonizing human lived body, removing the oppressive aspects of most union. Denaturalizing gender should be part of an entire rethinking of relation with other bodies. the body isn't a vain receptacle, but rather a mean for political liberation. And in the Ethics Part 4, Spinoza studies the role of imagination in the knowledge acquisition, especially through body's perceptions. Spinoza states that through perception, the mind acquires a higher knowledge, and the more the mind forms ideas, the more the body perceives, the more the mind forms ideas of its perception. So if we investigate subversive practices through the Spinozist theory, it appears that those practices become a means to have access to new perceptions and to acquire new notions. For example, women who are cross-dressing by wearing a bandage to bind their breasts in Diatos drag queen workshops experience new sensations and form new conceptions of gender social norms. It is important to underline the close link between experience, knowledge, and politics. The reversal of norms comes from the formation of new notions through perceptions. So my argument is that it is fully possible to think a Spinozian politics of body that focuses on the notion of imagination. We need to become active by creating together new common notions and accept it to change them when they do not produce the expected political harmony anymore. Bodily experiences become a way to subvert the intelligibility matrices. So there is a usual need to rethink a politics that would this time not tend to neglect bodies, but start from bodies, a politic of bodies. So to conclude, if we take seriously the role of the body, it is now the time to imagine new forms of political actions by putting the body experience at the forefront. Self-experience, as for example Beatrice Preciado imagined it with the principle of the autogyny peak. They used to say the time when she took testosterone to experience like new forms also of subjectivity. Cultural workshops that bring awareness to political oppressions and exchange roles should bring about a better and more just instinctual balance. So the fixity of our current cultural matrix lies on the fact that social positions are also fixed and the society never establishes the mobility of these terms. Thinking a permanent rotation of power positions and a permanent reinvention of the self seems to be a preferred mean to subvert the fixity of our political and social model.